Hello once again and welcome to PodCoder. We are continuing our series of idea to app development, and in the previous part we successfully developed the opportunity detail page. So here we have a list of opportunities, and if I click on any of these opportunity, I'm navigated to the detail of that opportunity. So now it is the time to add a new opportunity. If you see the design of our application, here we have list of opportunities, and at the bottom you can see we have this plus floating action button, and if I click on it, I am navigated to add a new opportunity. And in here we have this form with these properties like the title, description, category, country, and so on. And there are lots of important concepts in this form. First thing is the validation of this form, how we can validate the form before submitting it, and also how to fetch the data from the server, like this category and country from the server, and bind it with these drop downs. So we have really important concept and we'll cover it in this tutorial. So without further ado, let's start developing and coding. So now I am in the opportunities page. Let me go here, and at the bottom of this scaffold widget, so here we have a scaffold widget, and in that we have a floating action button. So this floating action button is a type of floating action button, and floating action button has a required property which is onPressed. So I'm going to put that. You can see right now we have it here, and also this floating action button needs a child. I'm going to put an icon here. So the icon is icons dot I'm going to put add. So if I save it, you can see we have it here. So if I click on it, nothing is happening. That's why, because we have an add, an onPress on it. Okay, so now in the opportunities, I am going to create a new page, and I will call it as add new opportunity, and I'll add page to that. So dart. This is an stateless widget, and the name of this widget is add new opportunity page, and I am going to bring the material by pressing Command and dot on Mac or Control and dot on Windows. So here we have a scaffold widget, and now what I'm going to do is I am going to the router, and inside the router, first of all, I am going to add a new constant. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this, and I will put it as add new opportunity. Same thing, I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so now it is the time to add the route. So I'm going to put it after this opportunity detail page. So let me close this navigation bar. Here we'll add a new case. So the case is add a new opportunity. And in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to return a material page route. And for the builder, it has the context. We are not interested in the context, and we are going to add the new created page. Okay, add new opportunity page. So we are done with this one. Now we have this route. I'm going back to the add new, into the opportunities page, and here what I'm going to do is on press of this floating action button, I'm going to call the navigator dot push named, and I'm going to put that route constant that we create. So now if I click on this plus button, you can see I'm navigated to that page, but it is an empty page, right? So it doesn't have anything. So let me put an app bar to be a little bit more visible. So I'm going to put a text here, and I'm going to put add a new opportunity. Wow, opportunity. Okay, So if I click on it right now, you can see that we have it, and it is the time to continue with it. Let me go back to the design. So we have this title description, and before everything, what we need is we need to fetch the categories and also the country from the countries. So before anything else, what we need is we need to fetch the categories and also the countries from the server and bind it with these drop downs. So for that, what we need is, if you remember, we have some repositories. So let me go here inside the lib, and here inside the application we have the repositories, right? So we have a separate repository for the auth, we have a forum repository and opportunity repository. What right now we are going to do is I'm going to create another repository, and I'm going to call it as common repository. Okay, repository dot. Why I put it common? Because I want to put the the lookups table, like countries, like the categories inside this repository. So as you know, first we'll start by creating an abstract class, and I'm going to put the name as common repository. And here, forgot to put the class here. Okay, and here what we will have is we'll have a future list of category. So before we have created this category, if you remember, inside the classes we have common and we have the category, and also we have the country class. So we have created this in our previous videos. Okay, so here this list of categories is basically the categories, and it is a function. And also we have another future method, and that is the list of country, and this will be our countries. So, and now what we are going to do is we are going to create an implementation of this class. So I'm going to put the name of this class as IMPL, or common repository implementation, which implements this common repository. And now we need to just provide the implementation for these two methods. So by pressing command dot or control dot or on Windows, we need to override these two methods. So the first method is basically fetching the categories from the server, and this is an async method. If you remember from our previous videos, we will have a try and also on do error catch e. And now here what we will do is, if there is an exception, we'll throw that exception, or throw show network exception. If you remember, we have created this method before. Otherwise, if there is no exception, what we will do is we'll have our response, and this response is basically the call await, and we'll have the forSat API.do.get, and we need to put an endpoint to this. So where is our endpoint? Let me go to the back end of our application, which is written in Laravel, and here inside the routes I'm going to click on the API.php, and here you can see that we have a separate lookups, and here we have the country category and also the country. So what this endpoint would be, this would be our domain namespace URL, and after that we'll have API, lookups, and also category. So let me go to the Postman. Let me open it here. We'll have another route, and we are going to call to that endpoint, which is localhost. So localhost 8000 and not slash chats. Basically this is slash category, and after that what we need to, if I send this request to that route, you can see it is not found, because after API I need to provide the lookups, right? Lookups slash category, and you can see it returns unauthenticated. This is why, because this route is protected by this auth API, means it is authenticated. So if the user want to access to this route, the user needs to be authenticated. So now in the authorization, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this OAuth 2, and from the available tokens I am going to select the ForSat. If you remember, in the previous videos we have created this token, and if you don't know how to create a new token, you can just click on this get new token access and provide this information, and just request token, you will get it. So now we have that token. If I send the request, you can see we have these categories. So we will have our response, which is response.data, and inside that we have this data array, and inside it we have these 3 categories. So let me go back to the to our application, and I'm going to copy this part right till this part. After this 8,000, and then we can just copy that part. I'm going to paste it here. So we have API lookups. So you will be wondering why I haven't put the whole the whole URL, because if you remember, inside the ForSat API we have this bis URL, right? So this bis URL, if you see here, let me go here, we have this bis URL, and our bis URL is this part. So we are adding only the part after API and so on. So that's it. Let me go back to the common repository, and here what we will have, let me close this navigation bar. You remember that we need to provide some options, and these are basically the options provided by the DU. Let me save it to format it a little bit, and inside this we need to provide the headers, which is an object. So the first thing that we need to provide is the authorization. If you let me go back here inside the repository, forum repository, if you see we have used this before. Let me copy this one because I don't want to type everything. Let me put it here, and we have the authorization bearer, and also from the local storage we are going to just bring this constant local storage class, and then our token constant. Okay, let me close this part, and after we get the response, what we are going to do is we want to fetch the data, which is a list. If you see here, it is a list, right? So we need to put the data, which is the response dot data, and from that we are going to extract the data. So let me explain it again. Here we have this response.data. This object is the response.data, and from that we are extracting this data, which is a list, or which is an array. Okay, so now from this what we can do is we can return the data dot map, and from this we can provide the category dot from JSON, and we are going to pass this e.toList. So if it is a lot to get at once, we have done this, right? We have created this from JSON file, if you remember from the previous video. So here we have this factory. Basically we are passing a JSON, and then we are creating the instance of this category class from this JSON file. So we have done this. So now we have a list. We are mapping through each element of this list, and we are transforming it, or we are converting it to a category instance, because here we have in return type we have a list of category. Okay, so right now we have this one. The same thing what we are going to do, let me just copy this part and paste it here, right? Because we will have the same thing for our countries. So let me put a sync here, but the endpoint is different, right? Let me just go to the server side, and here we have lookups and then country. Let me copy this country and go back to the postman, and I'm going to paste it after these lookups. Let me send the request. You can see we got the the list of countries. If you see here, we have it here. Okay, so now we have the same thing, just I am going to change this part to the country, and we will have the same thing. Don't mind, here we are repeated ourselves, you know, it is options. We will just get rid of it, and we will provide some kind of interceptor here in this ForSat API class, and in that interceptor I'm going to put the authorization at each route which is required. So we are not going to repeat ourselves again and again for passing these options. Okay, we will do it in another video because it needs some explanation. Okay, so this needs a list of country. What we are going to do is, instead of the category, we are going to pass the country. Wow, country.fromJSON, and from that, like, we are extracting the data and we are converting to the list of countries. Okay, that's it. I mean, our common repository is done. So right now we are fetching the categories and also the countries from the server, and we are converting it. So now what we need is, if you remember, after the creating repository, we created the states for other part of the application. So right now I'm going to click on the state, and here I'm going to click on creating a new file. What I'm going to put is the common state here, common state.dart. Oh, I misspelled that. Let me remove this R. Okay, the Dart. So this is a plain Dart class. So we'll have the class common state, and here what we will have is, if you remember from our previous videos, we will have our common repository, right? We'll have our common repository. So this is our common repository. I'm going to press the command dot to create the constructor of this class. So we will have it, and here what we will have is, first of all, a list of category. So it is going to be called categories, and by default it is an empty list. And here we'll have the list of category, which is the getter for this. So the get, we'll call it as categories, and this is going to return the categories. So if you're wondering why we have created this, because this is the setter, and we prefixed it by this underscore. And in Flutter, if you prefix something with underscore, it means a private instance of this class. So this will not be accessed outside of this class. And why we want this? Because we want to instantiate, or we want to initialize the categories inside this class, not outside of this class. And we want the other classes to just get the categories that is available inside this. Okay, so now we'll create a future method to get the categories from the repository. We have done this before in our previous videos. So I'm going to call this one as get categories. So this is going to be an async method. And what we are going to do is, we are just going to initialize our categories. So just see here, categories prefix with underscore. So equal to await, right? Await the common repository dot categories. So we have it here. Basically, this category will return a future list of categories, so we are awaiting for it. The same thing, I'm going to just copy and paste it. Here it will be get countries, and instead of the the categories, we'll call as countries. And now we get this error because this will return the list of countries and we can't initialize the list of categories with it. Okay, I'm going to copy this part, just going to paste it here. We'll have this one. Let me just rename this one to countries. This also, this getter needs to be, see, the countries. Wow. And here this one as well, this should be country, right? So we have list of countries, and oh, I missed that, right? Countries. So we are going to initialize this list of countries. So we are done with fetching the data from the server. Let me go to this design. So we are right now able to bind these categories and also the countries to this form, but where we can bind it. So now it is the time to start developing our form, because already we have the list of categories and also we have the list of countries. Okay, let me close all these tabs and I am going to the presentation layer, and inside the presentation, inside the opportunities, I'm going to click on this, add new opportunity again. So this is our page. And now what we need is, first of all, we need to inject, right? We need to inject this common repository inside this class. So inside the body of this class, I'm going to call an injector, and here this injector will have the inject, and I'll also inject and also builder, right? We have used this before, and if you don't know how to use it, just go to the browser and here search for std builder and just go and study these properties of std builder, which is a dependency injection and also a state management library for Flutter. Like we have block and also we have provider, we have getX. This is one of those libraries, and we have chosen this library for our series. So if you don't know about the injector, just go here, and here we have the injector. Click on it. You can see how we can inject a class. So here we have the injector. It has this inject property and also some other properties that we can use, and this is how we can inject a model, or basically a class. So now we want to inject our common repository, so we can just put it like this way. Okay, I'm going to close this one, and I'm going to come back here, and inside this, let me save it, right, to be formatted nicely. And if I hover on this inject, you can see it is a list of injectable, and right now what we can do is we can call the inject method, and inside this what we want to inject is our repository, right? So this will have a method, and this method will return this common repository. But you know that common repository itself is an abstract class, right? An abstract class also cannot be instantiated. So what we can do is we can call the common repository implementation class, because it will implement the common repository, and this will have the common repository type. Let me put a comma here and save it to format it nicely, and also we will have our common state, right? We want to initialize that one or inject that one as well, and this will return the common state, right? But this common state, if you see here, we need to put this common repository in it. So how we can get it? That is really easy with the states builder. Just we can call the in or injector.get what common repository. Why this is happening? Because before this one we injected that class here. So we have right now an instance of it here, and in future parts, if we want to like have access to it, we have an instance of it injected here, so we can have access to it. Let me save it. And here we have a problem, and that is because we need to return a widget, because this builder return type is a widget, so we need to return a widget. So for now, let me just return a container and save it. You can see that we don't have any error. So the good thing is that right now we injected these two classes, and now we can continue developing further. So I think this video is getting lengthy. I'm going to pause the video at this time, and we will create the rest of this form in the next video. So kindly subscribe and hit the bell button so you will be able to continue with me with the next one.